Hey everybody. So today I want to talk about real quick. These are five of the biggest worries and risks that retirees really fear, and I think these are pretty important to talk about because I've heard stories of people in the past. I've heard stories from people around work, and that's a lot of the reason that people that I work with, some of them in their 70s that could have retired years ago, won't leave. And some of the risks that they are talking about are on this list. And these are things that are legitimate concerns that we need to think about. So the first one is, surprisingly, really, is longevity. They're worried about outliving their money. And there's only so much you can save and feel like you're prepared for in that case. And it still has to become a security issue for you. So if you don't feel like you have enough saved and you feel like you're gonna run out of money, then you're probably gonna keep working, and that's a legitimate concern. And so and it's something that everybody needs to think about. Okay. The next thing that they worry about is running out of money from overspending. And it surprises me that they're both kind of the same issue, but they're separate reasons. One of them, they're worried about outliving the money. Second, the other one is that they're worried they're going to spend too much, and that's why they're going to run out. So I think if you set up your budgets properly and really think about what is my monthly expenses, what are my monthly income, and how much am I staying within my budget. That's just legitimate go to for anybody, is that if you're not sticking to a budget, you're not going to be able to maintain a lifestyle that you want. And then finding and knowing what that number is should determine how much longer you work, if you need to work part-time, if you need to cut back on expenses, or if you need to work a little longer and save a little bit more. Okay. The third one that a lot of people don't think about that they need to be concerned about, especially nowadays, is inflation eroding your savings. Um, I talked about my pension before in the past, and one of the big things with our pension is that it does not rise and go up with inflation, versus Social Security does. So that's one of the benefits of Social Security, but with a pension fund, most of the time that doesn't happen. Well, the other side of that coin is that if you don't have a pension, which only 20% of the people do anymore, and all you're using is 401k savings, IRAs, other asset allocation savings, and those items for your finances, most of those things aren't computed on inflation taking away the resource either. So even though you maybe put your money in a safe fund that makes, let's say, 5% a year, well, if inflation's going up 2, then you're really only making 3%. And if you're withdrawing 4% based on that old school rule, you can run into some real problems with that. And they become more expensive, which is why your expenses have to equal what your fixed income is. So you have to be very much thinking about that. And then if you're living on Social Security at a certain withdrawal amount, you're probably going to have to increase that every year just to make sure you're covering at least your expenses every year, so that, because your expenses are going to go up. So if you don't increase how much you take out of your withdrawals to cover that, you could have an issue. Okay. The last, or the fourth thing, is that people don't think about the market and how much it can change. And the years just before you retire and the years right after you retire are the most volatile for most people in their pension or their 401k and their savings and their assets. Because if you don't make an allocation of your funds to go to maybe safer markets right after you retire, you may, before you get to it, the market may take a collapse. Back in what I think it was 2021 or 2022, the S&P 500, which has been my mainstay, dropped 30 or 40% over a period of 4 or 5 weeks. That can devastate a 401k program if that's where your money's at. So I think making those allocations early enough, probably before you retire, will put them in safe spots. That way you kind of protect that. Even if you just divide it up better and go to a 60-40 split between stocks and bonds, whatever you're comfortable with. But people need to pay attention to that the years leading up to, because you don't want to bank on leaving in a year, and then the market takes a tank and you haven't allocated your funds a little bit better, or you don't want to retire and then it tanks before you've had a chance to reallocate. So think about those things. The last thing that I think is a big one that I'm surprised it's not a little bit higher on the list is healthcare and expenses. People don't plan for what the healthcare is going to cost them and what the expenses that goes along with those, including up to extended care. As you get to a point maybe where you're still alive and thriving, but you need extended care or need nursing care, and you have to go to those situations, and those things and programs eat up your money quickly. That's one of the biggest fears that my mom goes through all the time is that, do I have enough money to cover me if I need long-term care in a nursing facility versus, not. And it's really hard to see and think, do I have enough put away for that? Because when you go into nursing care, they literally take everything you have until it's gone, and then they say, oh, sorry, now you're going to have to go to a state-funded program. So anyway, those are the top 5 that I was able to find. Some of this information came from MetLife, but this was talking to some recent retirees at a banquet I went to. We talked about these things too, and they said, you never feel like you have enough saved, and then you never think about the unknown expenses that pop up later. So keep that in mind when you're doing your planning, and as always, thanks for watching.